I want to, I need to, let me tell you what's going to happen, just so you know where we're going. When we're done, I just want us to gather around this altar and just spend some time before the Lord. I just want to humble ourselves, and I just want us to, and I'm just telling you that now. So you don't have to worry. I'm just saying, if you love the Lord and you're in the house of God, and this is our altar area, I'm just saying it shouldn't be foreign to you just to come and say, I want to just get on my knees tonight a little bit. I know some of you physically cannot do that, but I'm just saying I want us just to get before the Lord tonight, because I want to share a message entitled Broken. Broken. I'm going to read from Mark chapter 14, beginning in verse 1. Mark chapter 14, beginning in verse 1. Then I'll read one verse from Romans chapter 12. Mark 14, 1. And after 2 days was the feast of the Passover of unleavened bread. And the chief priests and the scribes sought how that they might take him, speaking of Jesus, by craft and put him to death. But they said, not on the feast day, lest there be an uproar of the people. And being in Bethany in the house of Simon the leper, as he sat at meat, there came a woman having an alabaster box of ointment of spikenard, very precious, and she brake the box. I didn't break the box, or it would have just gone everywhere, but broke the seal on the box to be able to allow the aroma, the odor to come out of that precious ointment. And she brake the box and poured it on his head. And there were some that had indignation within themselves and said, what was this waste of the ointment made? Now, I just stop for a moment. You know what? Stay with me here, all right? Sometimes you'll have people that get in the presence of God, and boy, they'll start bucking and dancing, and they're going and shouting, and people run every once in a while. I'm just saying, people get kind of crazy in the presence of God, and there's always somebody that gets a little indignant about it. Somebody sitting back and going, well, is all that necessary? Do they all got to do that? You know, whatever. Oh, there's always, listen to me. If God had done for you what he'd done for them, you'd be shouting too. I feel sorry for you. I'm just saying. How many you know the story I told you? The fellow's sitting there and he's eating biscuit after biscuit after biscuit after biscuit. He's probably over here at Cracker Barrel, and the lady's watching him, and he's just eating. He's just stuffing himself, and she's watching and just kind of getting a little indignant with it after a while. And I mean, when it's all said and done, she finally says, "I have never seen anybody with any less discipline than you." He said, "Lady, you don't know how many I wanted to eat. You can't judge my discipline by what you saw. I wanted to." Many times you get indignant with people if you just knew what they wanted to do. If they just knew how much they would like to shout and run and scream. I'm just saying, so don't get indignant with it here. And here's what they said. For it might have been so we could have taken that ointment, we could have sold it for 300 pence and have given it to the poor, and they murmured against her. And Jesus said, let her alone. Now think about that. Does that mean he's not a good steward? Does that mean he doesn't care about the poor? Does that mean he likes to waste? No, but he said, leave her alone. Just leave her alone. Why trouble her? She hath wrought a good work on me. Now watch this. He knew what they were saying. You bunch of goofballs. He says, for you got the poor with you always. You ain't never done nothing before. You ain't never done anything to help them yet. Now you want to take it and act like if you had that money, you'd go and do that. Well, you ain't never done it in the past. So he says, wait, you got the poor with you always. You can always do them good. But me you have not always. She hath done what she could. She is come aforehand to anoint my body to the burying. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached throughout the whole world, this also that she hath done shall be spoken of for a memorial of her. She broke it. Romans chapter 12. One verse that everybody's familiar with. I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice. Now, remember now, over in Mark 14, she's done what she could do. She's coming and she's breaking the ointment and she's pouring it on him. She's offering that sacrifice. She's offering what she can to him. And now here it says that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. Not worthy of a pat on the back. Not, oh, aren't they a great saint? That's your reasonable service. We have gotten so far away from reasonable service. When somebody does a good thing, we act like they're a saint. And really all they're doing is what they should have been doing all along. And I understand it's so rare that I get that. But the truth of it is, it's so rare that somebody does the right thing that it gets so much attention. Now listen to me. I want you to hear this. That's a very unusual thing. Living sacrifice. And we brush past it, and you've been in church a long time. Ooh, one little shout about living sacrifice. Living sacrifice. Sacrifice means something has got to die. Something has died. There has been a death somewhere along the line. Something has ceased to exist. And yet here it says, present your bodies a living sacrifice unto him. Now, I got to tell you something. If right now we were sitting at Cracker Barrel, we could just stop. I wouldn't preach, but we'd talk about this right here. I'd say, talk to me, Judge. What living sacrifice? Whether you want to call that an oxymoron, whatever you want. I'm just saying, that's intriguing to me. What does that mean? A living sacrifice. I got to get it. I got to get hold of it. That's an important thing. I mean, it's essential. I would submit to you that that's missing in the body of Christ. It's missing in our Christianity walk. We've got to come back and understand, what does that mean? We think, listen to me, we're so happy somebody's going to church. We're so happy that somebody shows up every month. I mean, we're so satisfied with so little, and reasonable service has become the extreme high that we've lowered the standards so much. I mean, we are so glad. Well, you know, when I was growing up, you know what they used to say, Brother Dan, all the time? You know what? Are you saved and full of the Holy Ghost? We talk, are you saved and full of the Holy Ghost? I mean, that's all it was. Not just are you saved. I mean, are you saved and full of the Holy Ghost? But and now, I mean, now it's like, we're just glad that, are you saved? Or do you think you're saved? Or you may be possibly saved. I mean, we're so happy that maybe somebody's just not living a hellish lifestyle. But I mean, we've lowered the standard so much down through the years that now I'm just saying, living sacrifice is foreign to people. I mean, we think we are doing God a favor by taking time out of ball games and events and junk and stuff and work and whatever else to show up on Sunday morning for an hour and a half. Well, I lost some of you somewhere. We act like that's such a great thing. We need to understand living sacrifice. You know what the issue is? Can I just take a break here and tell you? You know what the problem of it is? This is the major issue that we have going on. Here's what it is. Every preacher that stands in the pulpit these days is preaching to people who have the mindset that they are a person of the flesh. They are an earthly being and they stopped off to church for a spiritual encounter. When the reality is you are a spirit being. You're just on this earth for a little physical encounter. See, so what happens is when the preacher's up talking about the things of God and living sacrifice and holy, acceptable, we're sitting there going, what in the world is his problem? We think we are physical creatures, earthly creatures, who just every once in a while add a little bit of spirituality to our life. Folks, can I tell you something? When you are dead, your physical body is dead, your spirit continues to live. Somewhere. Are you listening to me? So don't tell me that what's important is the physical part. I mean, listen, we all ought to be in better shape. We all ought to take care of our natural self. I'm all about that. But we better understand something. We are not a natural human being on a spiritual encounter once in a while. We are a spirit being that just has stopped by on earth for a little bit of a time. We used to sing that old song, "This world is not my home. I'm only passing through." We need to understand living sacrifice. How does this play out in everyday living? Let me submit something to you. Only dead men see God's face. I don't mean in a dream, Brother Eddie. I don't mean in a vision somewhere. But have you ever seen the face of God? I haven't seen the face of God. You know, I mean, but we will one day. You know, the old song we talk about, you know, when our faith is made sight. There's coming a day. I mean, we're going to walk and we're going to talk. I mean, but we walk by faith. Right? We've not seen his face. Only dead men. Listen to me. My mama has seen his face. You hear me? She's in heaven right now. She's seen his face. Only dead men, dead to the flesh, dead to this natural physical being, have seen the face of God. So understand, you have to start there. Only dead men, dead women can see the face of God. So what it means is I have got to not be really alive anymore. All right, I'm talking about a living sacrifice now. We must become as walking dead men. Walking dead men. We're alive, we're here, we're still on earth, but our spirit being is what really is driving us and what really is taking front and center with us. If you want to be a living sacrifice, you have to understand only dead men see the face of God. So I cannot continue to walk in the flesh, walk in the natural. I've got to begin to walk by faith. I got to walk in the spirit realm. We must become walking dead men. How do you do that? How do you do that? Listen to me. Get this point right here. Your reach, your hunger must exceed your reach. Let me say it again. Your hunger must exceed your own ability. Your hunger has got to be beyond what you can do and what you can see and what you can do. You've got to have a hunger for something beyond what the map can lay out for you, something beyond what man can tell you, something beyond what you can think or what you can feel or what you can do. We've got to have a hunger for more than what we can see and touch and feel. We've got to have a hunger that goes beyond our reach. Can I tell you something? I want to be a part of something that's bigger than me. If all I've got is what I can see and what I can do and what I can accomplish and my own ability and my own strength or whatever, I'm sadly low in my expectations. I want a hunger that exceeds my own reach. Watch this now. We can pursue God, but we can never really, really catch Him. You can pursue God. We talk about more of Him, more of you, more of Him. That's a great thing. That's a great thought. But you ever thought how stupid that is? He is infinite, all-knowing, all-powerful, but bigger than what, and we're going to act like we're going to get all of God. I'm going to get more of you, more of you. Are you kidding me? Listen to me. That's so ridiculous. My prayer is not, Lord, I want all of you, I want all of you, I want all of you. That can't even happen. I couldn't even begin to scratch the surface. What our prayer at this altar ought to be, Lord, is you take all of me. Because He can do that. I can never pursue all of Him, but He can have all of me. Are you listening to me now? You have to come to a point in time where you understand you can pursue God. But if your journey is to get more of God than anybody else, can I tell you something? You can get all you want, and you got nothing. He's infinite. He's more powerful. He's bigger than that. I mean, He can do it. He's more. You can't even come close to capturing Him. Watch this now. It's an impossibility for the east to the west. They're too far removed. They will never, ever be able to be done. You ever thought about this when our 4 girls were growing up, when they were little around this happened all the time. Everybody's little 2-year-old. We're going to play tag. Me and Jocelyn, or me and Giovanna, whoever, we're going to play tag. And I'm playing with the 2-year-old now. Can I tell you something? They can't never catch me. That 2-year-old could never touch me. I mean, we could go all day long, and they could never. I mean, I'm taller, bigger, jump over. I mean, I can make sure they never touch me. But that's not the point of the game. If you know anything about tag, the point of it is they've got to be able to touch me, and then I'm it, and then I touch them, and then see somewhere along the line. If your goal is you're going to get him, you can't get him. You can't get him. Now, but watch what happened with so if you ever done that before, you try to decide, do I teach the kids? Am I teaching the kids and whatever it is? I don't care what game it is. Am I teaching them by letting them win? Or is it best for them to play tough against them and them learn to win on their own? I mean, you all go back and forth with that. Not at 2 years old, but you know what I'm saying. So after a while, they're dad, and they can't ever touch me. They can't ever tag me. So then what happens after I turn around and they ain't trying no more? Well, that makes me mad. We was playing. But we was playing a game that could never be done because a 2-year-old could never, ever tag me. And if I keep backing away and stuff, then I look around and before long, they're not even pursuing me anymore. See, it's like the devil's told somebody to go in the round room and stand in the corner. It's like we're trying to get all of God, and then, and listen, you folks, listen, in all my years of passion, I've seen people get discouraged and give up. They were going to pray 5 hours a day. No, they wasn't. I want to pray 2 hours a day. No, you're not. I'm saying that's great. I'm going to pray an hour a day. Probably not. I mean, I'm just saying, great, go. But what happens is they set that goal and they're going to do it. And they do it one day and maybe 2, whatever. But after a while, then when you start to fail in that, then you get discouraged. And I'm not trying to lower the standard here. I'm preaching against that. But what I am saying is you got to get yourself into a game that is not even, you can't play it. Listen to me. You know what? It'd been better 40 years ago if you'd have committed to 5 minutes of prayer a day and you did it 365 days in a row for 40 years. That'd be far better than an hour a day for a week and then quitting. Are you listening to me? I'm simply saying you've got to come to a point in time. See, where what happens is, and this is the key thing. Can I just say this to you? He's not like me. I might have done that, and after a while I turn around and they're not tagging, they're not chasing me no more. And I'm saying, come on. So then what happens is I let them touch me, and then I tag them. See, then what happens is, watch this now. The pursued becomes the pursuer. See, I was being pursued, and I was able to stay away from them, but that's not the purpose of things. But when I slowed down a little bit, when I became touchable to them, when they could tag me, see, then I'm back and I'm tagging them. All of a sudden, then, see, what happens is the pursued becomes the pursuer. You're already ahead of me on this. James chapter 4, verse 8. Word of God says, draw nigh unto me. Draw nigh unto God, and he will draw nigh unto you. He is not trying to dodge you. He's not trying to hide you. He's not trying to stay away from you. Can I tell you that you all know this is true? That thing with the kids and stuff, somewhere on the line, when they need this, they need this. Daddy, I want this. Daddy, I want that. Oh, Mommy, give me. And after a while, you're going, oh, my goodness, we need a break. We need a break. We need a break. We need a break. You know what? Someday, they ain't going to need you. And that's a rude awakening. That's a hard day. See, and all of a sudden, then you're pursuing him and say, hey, you do lunch? Well, are you hearing me? See, the pursued now becomes the pursuer. And because all we want is the connection, the relationship. That's all they wanted. That's all they wanted. And by the way, can I also just jump in and tell you one thing, too, that this is important. The downward flow of love is stronger than the upward flow of love. Listen to it again. The downward flow of love is stronger than the upward flow of love. Now, don't get offended at that. I didn't say it's better or it's more. It's stronger. Now, I would argue with anybody in this building tonight if you tried to tell me you loved your mom and daddy more than I love my mom and daddy. My mom has already passed, but my daddy's still alive. Listen to me. I love them, and you would argue with me. I love my mom and dad as much as anybody on this planet could ever love their mom and daddy. Now, but it ain't the same as what I feel toward my 4 daughters. I didn't say I love them less. I already told you, I'll fight you in a minute. I mean, I love them more. I could not love my mom and dad more than what I love them. But the downward flow of love is stronger than the upward flow of love. You know why my mom and daddy wouldn't be mad at that? Because they understand it. Because they love their mom and daddy too. Wilson, Edna Kirkland. You hear me? I mean, I'm telling you right now, they love them. And my dad's mom and dad, I mean, Louis, I'm telling you right now, they love them, but they know how they felt about us. See, the downward flow of love is stronger. You know why we love him? What's it say? Because he first loved us. Paul said, the love of Christ compelleth me, constrains me. The downward flow of love is stronger than the upward flow of love. We understand. I mean, this thing is, it's all, but he set it in motion, not us. He started the game of tag, not us. He's the one that made us, shaped us, formed us. He loved us. He sent us to be good. I'm telling you, he is the one. He's not hiding. He's not running. He's not trying to avoid anything. I'm telling you. And by the way, that downward flow of love is important to understand. That's why parents don't run away from home. You want to. You thought about it, but you don't. Kids run away from home. And then they regret it someday when they start having their own kids. See, you ever notice that's what people say, well, when you have your own kids. Why? Because then they understand now they understand the downward flow of love. Then what ought to make you do when you understand how you feel about grace? You know what? You love your mom and daddy even more now because you understand how much they love you. I'm simply trying to say to you that we've got to begin this living sacrifice thing by simply having a hunger that goes beyond our own reach. We've got a God that we can never consume. We've got a God that we can never get all of him. We've got a God that we'll never be able to have more. But he's not running from us. You understand that while that child couldn't catch me, I could let them catch me. And then I can catch them. And then I can make sure they catch me again. And then I can catch them. Can I tell you something? He's not hiding from you. If you draw nigh to him, he'll draw nigh to you. And the game of tag is on between you and God. I'm simply telling you, you need to know that's where we are. If you are hungry for the fire of God, let me tell you what to do. If you're hungry for the fire of God, you don't have to go off to a camp meeting somewhere. You don't have to run off to some place. Listen to me. All you got to do is just simply crawl on the altar and say, God, whatever it takes, I lay myself at the altar and I ask you to consume me. When he was asked, when the great revivalist John Wesley was asked about his great crowds, you know what he told him? Exactly what he said. He said, I just get myself caught on fire with the Lord and people come to watch me burn. Better felt than told. Watch this now. The more death that God smells, the closer he can come. Stay with me now. I'm going to say it again. The more death that God smells, the closer he can come. Look at the Old Testament sacrifices. It's as if the smell of the sacrifice was a signal to God that he could draw near to his people without striking them down because of the sin. Listen to me. Sin will separate you from God. He's a holy God. The only time he ever turned his back on Jesus, when Jesus was on this earth for 33 years, the only time he ever turned his back is when Jesus bore the sin of all of mankind. That one moment, I think the hardest thing, when we get to heaven, you want to talk to Jesus, he won't talk about the thorns, he won't talk about the spear, he won't talk about the spitting, he won't talk about the betrayal, he won't talk about all that. The hardest moment he had on this earth is when that one one time the communion and fellowship was broken with his heavenly Father when he bore the sins of all mankind because he could not look upon sin. Stay with me. I'm telling you, the old sacrifice was a signal that God could come down to his people, that they were dying to the old stuff. They were offering a sacrifice. His end goal, you know what his goal has always been? It's always been reunion. It's always been restoration. It's always been intimate communion with mankind. His highest creation, that's what he's always wanted. But sin messed all that up. God cannot come close, listen to me, to living flesh because it reeks of the sin of the world. It has to be, watch this now. I didn't say he won't come near to you. I already said he will. He has to come near to dead flesh. Not living flesh, but dead flesh for him to come close. Galatians 2:20. Paul said, I'm crucified with Christ. Nevertheless, I live. Here we are. Living sacrifice. You want to know how to be a living sacrifice? That's what it says. Present your bodies a living sacrifice. Romans 12:1. Paul, listen to me. Can I tell you, Paul, to me, the greatest Christian ever walked the planet. Greatest man ever walked was Jesus. But I think the greatest Christian ever, I mean, you can argue about it, but I'm just trying to say, you got to admit, Paul was up there. He's pretty tough, pretty big in the Christian faith. Listen to me. And Paul, and you study about that. And I've done it. I've studied about Paul. Why would I say that? Why would I say Paul's the greatest Christian ever walked the planet? Why not somebody else? Why? Because, you know, there's a lot of people, they love God. They've done great things. They started churches. They did a lot of things that Paul did. But Paul is the only one that I can find that said, I'm crucified with Christ. I'm crucified. Nobody else said it. He said, I'm crucified with Christ. But nevertheless, here I am. He said, yet not I, but the life I now live, I don't live in the flesh, but I live it through Christ, through the Spirit. Now, are you listening to me? I'm trying to help you tonight. Living sacrifice. He said, I'm still walking around. I'm a walking dead man. I'm crucified with Christ, and yet I'm still here, and it's not me anymore, but it's Christ in me and through me, and all of a sudden he's become a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto God. Paul's the only one that can say, I'm crucified with Christ. Hear me on this now. Something always has to die when God's glory encounters living flesh. John said, I must decrease for him to increase. I'm going to close with it. Stand to your feet. But I need you, don't quit listening. Don't quit listening, all right? Look at me. I'm not a scholar. I haven't done my life study on this. I'm just simply trying to say to you, do you understand then the reason for all this? is that Jesus then became what? Our supreme sacrifice. The more of Jesus in your life, the more of the sacrifice of Jesus, that you love him, you pursue him, you seek him, you spend time with him, you fellowship with him, you commune with him, you pray, you worship. The more, listen to me, the more you get Jesus, the more you begin to smell like a sacrifice. Jesus came for one purpose, and that was to die on the cross. No more sacrificing of bulls and sheep, nothing like that. But now he became the supreme sacrifice. So now we don't have to offer. Now listen to me. Remember back in the day, that's what they did. And now we're saying we're shifting from that. You don't have to do that. She took the ointment and poured that out. But now it's saying, look, you don't have to burn an animal, and you don't have to kill and sacrifice. And you don't even have to take ointment and pour that out. All you got to do is just get more and more of Jesus. You understand? Present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable. You don't have to sacrifice a spotless lamb. You don't have to pour out oil upon his body. When you just accept more of Jesus in your life, less of you, more of him. When you begin to do that, you say again, how do I do that? How can I live in revival mode and have intimacy with God? How can I do that? The answer is there has to be a brokenness. You don't get closer to God by getting bigger and Joe Christian. No. It's actually by being broken. Broken. I am convinced that a preacher, a minister of song, teaching, preaching, whatever, I don't think you can truly effectively minister until you've been broken. I don't think you can effectively do that. I think, and I'm not in charge of that. I'm not. But all I'm saying is there's got to be a brokenness where it's not you just full up and man, I'm just getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the Lord, and no, that's not what I find. What I find is Paul said, when I'm weak, then I'm made strong. And when I decrease, John said, I increase. It's what I've preached before, and I'm going to preach again someday. It's like it's stepping down to greatness. We live in a world that says you step up, climb the ladder. Listen, no, listen to me. You step down. Jesus said, among the heathen, every little minor official lords it over those beneath them. But in my kingdom, you want to be somebody? Humble yourself. Be a servant. He said, even myself, I came not to be served, but to serve. Listen to this as I close. The breaking of your heart draws the attention of the ears and the eyes of God. Your puffed up chest. Are you proud of me, Lord? I read this much today and I prayed this long today. There's nothing wrong with that. We need more prayer and we need more Bible reading. There's no question about that. But not to be able to pat yourself on the back. Not to be able to say, are you proud of me now? No, not for that purpose, not that reason. I mean, we just simply have to understand that your brokenness is what draws the attention of the ears and the eyes of God. And watch this now sequence. It begins with your love for him. When your love for him supersedes what others may think. This is a good time for a preacher to go, oh, you didn't hear me there. Let me say it again. It begins when your love for him supersedes your fear of what others will think. There's more peer pressure right now as we get ready to open these altars. There's more peer pressure right now in this moment than any junior high school in the country, because we're worried about what. If I go down there, Eddie, they're going to think something's wrong with me. They're going to go, oh, I wonder what's been going on there. See, all the peer pressure. If I go down there, they're going to go, oh, I wonder what's going on. I bet they're having trouble. I wondered about that. Oh, shut up. And you know what you got to do? It get a point where you've heard me say this. It don't matter what people think.
That's right.
It matters what you and God know. When your love for him becomes greater than your fear of what others are going to think, now you're getting somewhere. And let me say this, you can't seek his face and save yours at the same time. Sometimes we just need a little running mascara. Sometimes we just need a little messed up hair. You know what I mean? Are you listening to me? Sometimes we just need to not be worried about. Are you hearing what I'm saying? I mean, we've just got to come to a point where I'm not worried about, saving my face. I'm seeking his face. And I don't care what anybody else thinks about that. But I'm telling you, most of the time, listen to me, I've pastored one church for 28 years. And in 28 years, there were some people there 28 years, and some of them I never saw at the altar 1 second. Not 1 second. 28 years. Don't you think somewhere along the line, I don't mean problems, I don't mean difficulty, just somewhere along the line, didn't you just feel like you ought to come down and just spend time, crawl up on the altar and say, Lord, just consume me. Just take more of me. Folks, I'm telling you tonight, did you notice that God did not break the woman's alabaster box? She had to do it. Others opposed, but the Lord allowed it and stood by her. You must allow yourself to become broken and not worry what anybody else thinks about it. Just bow your heads for a moment all across this room. Father, I just pray that you would just let there be a spirit of integrity and integrity of heart that would just settle over us right now. And Father, there's not going to be a big appeal. It's not going to be how many this and how many that. Lord, we're just simply going to say that we're in your house, we're in your presence. The word has been shared, and now before we leave, Lord, we just want to respond a little bit. We just want to come and tag you tonight and say, you're it, Lord. We just want to come and keep the communion going. We just want to come and just spend a little time with you. Folks, I'm not asking you to stay for the next 2 hours. If you want to, that's fine. I'll stay with you. I'm not asking you for 10 minutes. I'm just saying, just before we leave, could we just come down? No, not for me. I don't have anything to do. I'm not going to say any more. I'm just saying, before you leave, if you have that desire to be a living sacrifice, if you have an interest in a hunger that's beyond your own ability, if you simply want to be able to say, Lord, more of you and less of me, then I invite you tonight, just before you leave, to come. Gather around this altar like I told you he's going to do, and just spend a little time. Just crawl up on the altar and just say, Lord, more of you and less of me. Would you do it? Come. We're done. If you have to leave, God bless you. If you have to go, I understand. But I want you to know the altars are open. Let's come. Let's just spend a little time before we have to go. And I'm aware we got work tomorrow. I'm aware we got kids back. I know. But just take a few moments tonight and say, Lord, I want to be a living sacrifice. I want to be a living sacrifice, Lord. I want to be crucified with you tonight, Lord. Father, I'm the first one to hit the altar. I'm the first one tonight to say, Lord, I need that.